Arthur and Elena Sterling lived in a house that was far too quiet for the dreams they had built. For years, they had prayed for the pitter-patter of feet, and finally, their prayers seemed answered in double measure. They were expecting twins. The nursery was painted a soft sky blue. 2 cribs stood side by side near the window, and 2 hand-knitted blankets lay folded neatly on the rocking chair. But fate, it seemed, had a different plan. The night of the delivery was a blur of sterile white lights and hushed whispers. When the twins, Noah and Oliver, were born, the room didn't fill with the sharp cry of new life. Instead, there was a heavy, suffocating silence. Despite the doctor's best efforts, both boys had passed away during childbirth due to unforeseen complications. In an instant, Arthur and Elena went from being parents-to-be to parents of shadows. Arthur and Elena Sterling were ghosts in their own home. After the twins died, silence became a physical entity that lived in the corners of their rooms. Years passed, and the cradle remained empty. Doctors gave up, but Arthur's desperation grew into a dark obsession. Rumors whispered of a village hidden in the mist of the Blackwood Valley, where a woman lived who could bargain with the soil and the stars. They called her the Bone Witch. Driven by grief, Arthur trekked for 3 days through the rotting woods, until he found a hut made of gnarled roots and animal skulls. The witch, her eyes milky with cataracts, but seeing far more than a mortal, smiled a toothless grin. "A life for a life is the law of the earth, Arthur Sterling," she hissed. "I will give you the seed of life, but the firstborn of this pact belongs to me. You may keep the second, the third, and the rest, but the first, she is my tithe." In his madness, Arthur agreed. He signed a parchment with a drop of his own blood. 6 months later, the miracle happened. Elena was pregnant. Her depression vanished, replaced by a radiant, almost unnatural glow. But Arthur was a man living under a death sentence. Every night, he dreamt of the witch's claw-like hands reaching through the nursery window. He didn't tell Elena about the deal. He watched her belly grow with a mixture of love and pure, unadulterated terror. He began to reinforce the house. Iron bars on the windows, salt lines at the doors, and a heavy silver lock on the nursery. The house felt heavy. The air grew cold whenever the baby kicked. The shadows in the hallway seemed to move independently of the light. The labor started on a night when the moon was the color of a bruised plum. The wind howled like a wounded beast outside their manor. When the baby was born, she was beautiful, a girl named Lyra, with eyes as bright as stars. But as Elena held her, the candles in the room suddenly flickered and died. A foul smell of wet earth and ancient decay filled the room, a rhythmic thump, thump, thump sounded from the stairs. "Arthur," Elena whispered, clutching Lyra to her chest. "Someone is in the house." Arthur grabbed a heavy iron poker from the fireplace, his knuckles white. "She won't take her. I won't let her." The nursery door, locked from the inside with heavy bolts, began to groan. The wood started to rot and soften like melting wax. "You promised, Arthur," a voice rasped, not from the door, but from the shadows under the crib. The Bone Witch didn't walk through the door. She manifested from the darkness itself. She stood tall, draped in tattered black rags, her skin the color of ash. Arthur lunged at her, but with a flick of her wrist, he was slammed against the wall, pinned by invisible weight. Elena screamed as the witch drifted toward the bed. "A contract signed in blood cannot be broken by iron or salt," the witch cackled. The witch reached for the baby. Arthur struggled, sobbing, "Take me instead! Please!" The witch stopped and looked at Arthur, a cruel mirth in her eyes. "You misunderstand the hunger of the earth, little man. I don't want her soul. I want her vessel." As the witch touched the baby's forehead, the child didn't cry. Instead, the infant's eyes turned entirely black. The room began to shake, and the walls started to bleed black bile. The witch vanished in a gust of freezing wind, taking the baby with her into the shadows. But the horror wasn't over. As Arthur ran to his weeping wife, he heard a sound that chilled him to the bone. From the attic, the place where he had hidden the twins' old clothes, he heard the sound of 2 pairs of tiny feet running. Then, 2 voices, high-pitched and distorted, whispered in unison, "Father, why did you give her to the mother of bones? We were waiting for our sister." Arthur looked into the mirror and saw his own reflection aging rapidly, his hair turning white in seconds. He realized then that the witch hadn't just taken his daughter, she had claimed his entire bloodline.